The stars looked like tiny dots against the black space as Captain Susan Miller stared out the main window of the spaceship Meridian. Her ship was the pride of Earth's space fleet. It was not the biggest or the newest, but it had the best crew and the most discoveries. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Jack Williams from his spot at the communications desk. Jack was young but smart. His fingers moved quickly over the glowing screens. "It's some kind of signal. Nothing I've ever seen before." Susan walked over to his station. "Can you clean it up?" "Working on it," Jack said. He pushed his red hair out of his eyes and kept typing. "There, got it. Wow, Captain, I think it's alien." The word made everyone on the bridge stop and look up. Humans had been exploring space for 50 years, but they had never met other intelligent life. "Are you sure?" Susan asked. Her heart beat faster, but her voice stayed calm. Jack nodded. "The pattern is too regular to be natural, and it's aimed right at us." "Put it through the translator," Susan ordered. The ship's computer was designed to find patterns in unknown languages. While they waited, Science Officer Peter Hall checked his own screens. His dark eyes went wide. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple objects approaching our position. They're big, really big." "How big?" Susan asked. "The largest one is about 10 times the size of our ship," Peter said. "And there are at least 20 others following it." Susan took a deep breath. This was it. First contact with aliens. Her name would go down in history books, if they survived. "Everyone stay calm," she said. "Let's remember our training." The translator beeped. A voice filled the bridge. It spoke English, but with a strange accent that made some words hard to understand. "Attention, human vessel. You have entered the sovereign territory of the galactic hegemony. Your species is unknown to us. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile. Your world now belongs to the Varaxian Empire, the ruling force of the hegemony. Submit or face destruction." For a moment no one spoke. Then Susan did something that surprised even herself. She laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It was genuine. The alien message was so dramatic, so much like old science fiction movies, that it struck her as funny. "Are they serious?" asked Lisa Bennett, Susan's second-in-command. Lisa was trying not to smile. "They sound like cartoon villains." "Open a channel," Susan said, still grinning. "Let's say hello to our new friends." "Channel open," Jack said. Susan cleared her throat. "This is Captain Susan Miller of the Earth exploration vessel Meridian. We come in peace and mean no harm. We'd be happy to meet with representatives of your, what was it? Galactic hegemony? Would you like to come aboard for coffee?" The bridge crew tried to hide their smiles. The alien ships were now visible through the main window. They were shaped like arrowheads with glowing purple lights along their hulls. There was a long pause before the alien voice responded. It sounded confused. "Human vessel, you do not seem to understand. We are not requesting, we are commanding. The Varaxian Empire has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. All species submit to our authority." Susan raised an eyebrow and looked at her crew. "Well, they seem friendly enough. Prepare the meeting room, let's show them some Earth hospitality." As the massive alien ship surrounded the much smaller Meridian, Susan felt strangely calm. Something told her these aliens, for all their big talk, had never met humans before, and they were in for quite a surprise. Image description for Leonardo. AI, a female spaceship captain with short brown hair and a blue uniform, stands confidently on the bridge of a sleek spaceship, smiling slightly as she looks out the main view screen. Through the large window, several massive arrowhead-shaped alien vessels with glowing purple lights are visible against the backdrop of space. The bridge crew around her appears a mix of nervous and amused as they work at futuristic control panels with holographic displays. The lighting is cool blue inside the human ship, contrasting with the purple glow of the alien vessels outside. The meeting room on the Meridian was not very big, but Susan made it look nice. She put out coffee, tea, and some cookies that Chef Paul had baked that morning. The crew wore their best uniforms and stood at their places around the table. "Remember," Susan told them, "be friendly but careful. We don't know what these aliens want." The ship's computer announced that the alien shuttle was docking. Jack Williams stood by the translator device, making last-minute adjustments. "Do you think they'll really try to take over Earth?" Lisa Bennett asked quietly. "With that attitude?" "They can try," Susan said with a small smile. The door slid open. 5 aliens walked in. They looked almost human, except for their purple skin and the small ridges on their foreheads. They wore shiny black uniforms with many colorful badges and pins. The one in front had the most decorations and walked with his chin held high. "Welcome aboard the Meridian," Susan said, stepping forward with her hand out. "I'm Captain Susan Miller." The lead alien looked at her hand like it might bite him. He did not shake it. "I am High Commander Zulthrak of the Varaxian Empire, ruling force of the Galactic Hegemony," he said in a deep voice. The translator made his words sound a bit flat, but they were clear enough. "You will now kneel before me." Susan blinked. She looked at her crew, who seemed just as confused. "I'm sorry, we don't really do that on Earth, but please have a seat. Would you like some coffee?" Zulthrak's face turned a darker shade of purple. "You do not understand, human. This is not a social visit. We have claimed this star system for the hegemony. You are now our subjects." Lisa stepped forward with a tray of mugs. "Cream or sugar? Or we have tea if you prefer." The aliens looked at each other, clearly not sure what to do. One of them, a female with silver markings on her face, whispered something to Zulthrak. "Very well," he said finally. "We will participate in your ritual. Then you will submit." They sat down stiffly. Susan passed around the cookies while Alan Rodriguez, the ship's engineer, started asking questions about their ships. "What kind of FTL drive do you use?" "We're still working with the Anderson fold method. Gets us to about 12 light years per Earth day," Alan said, sipping his coffee. One of the aliens who wore a badge that looked technical answered before Zulthrak could stop him. "We use the quantum fold technique, 20 light years per cycle." "Fascinating," Alan said. "We theorized that might work, but we haven't cracked the math yet. What kind of containment field do you use for the quantum particles?" "Enough." Zulthrak slammed his hand on the table, making the coffee cups jump. "You will stop this immediately. Do you not understand? We have conquered your vessel. Your planet is next. You should be begging for mercy." Susan tilted her head. "That seems a bit extreme. We haven't done anything to you. Why would we need mercy?" The female alien with silver markings leaned toward Zulthrak again. "High Commander, I believe they genuinely do not understand the protocol. This species may be too primitive to grasp the concept of the hegemony." "Hey, we can hear you," Lisa said, frowning. "And we're not primitive. We've been exploring space for 50 years. The aliens looked shocked. "Only 50? One of them asked. "How long have you been in space?" Peter Hall asked, curious. "The Varaxian Empire has ruled the stars for 10,000 years, Zulthrak said proudly. "All beings recognize our superiority." Susan took a bite of a cookie. "Well, we're new to the neighborhood, but we're quick learners. Now, instead of all this conquest talk, why don't we discuss how our species can help each other?" Zulthrak stood up, his face now almost blue with what looked like anger or maybe shock. "This meeting is over. You will be given 1 Earth day to prepare for formal surrender." As the aliens left, Alan whispered to Susan, "I don't think they like us very much." Susan shrugged. "They'll warm up to us, everyone does eventually." Image description for Leonardo AI. A sleek spaceship meeting room with a round table where 5 purple-skinned humanoid aliens in elaborate black uniforms with colorful badges sit rigidly across from human crew members in blue uniforms. The lead, alien Zulthrak, looks visibly frustrated with a dark purple face, while the human captain, a woman with short brown hair, calmly offers a tray of cookies. Coffee mugs are scattered on the table. One human crew member is enthusiastically showing a tablet with technical diagrams to a reluctantly interested alien engineer. The lighting is warm inside the meeting room, highlighting the contrast between the relaxed humans and the stiff, formal aliens. After the aliens left the meeting room, Susan called her senior crew together. That went well, she said. Well? Lisa asked with wide eyes. They just threatened to conquer Earth. Susan shrugged. They're just being dramatic. They could have attacked us already if they wanted to. Instead, they came to talk. That's a good sign. Daniel Garcia, the ship's science officer, tapped on his tablet. I recorded some readings of their technology while they were here. It's advanced, but not as much as they want us to believe. What do you mean? Susan asked. Daniel showed the screen to everyone. Their translator is similar to ours. Their uniforms have tech woven in, but nothing we couldn't make in a few years. I think they're not as far ahead of us as they claim. Alan nodded. I noticed that too. When I asked about their engines, that engineer seemed surprised we've come so far in just 50 years. Just then, Jack's voice came over the ship's speakers. Captain, the aliens are requesting permission to come back aboard. They want to bring some equipment. Susan smiled. See? They're already warming up to us. Tell them yes, but they'll need to let us scan the equipment first. An hour later, High Commander Zulthrak returned with 6 more aliens. They brought large cases that Daniel's scans showed contained various devices, but no weapons. You honor us with a second visit so soon, Susan said as she met them in the cargo bay. Zulthrak's face showed no emotion. We are not here to socialize. We have decided to show you the might of the hegemony so you understand your situation better. The aliens set up a large screen. One of them pressed some buttons, and a 3D image appeared. It showed thousands of ships, planets, and star systems. This is the Galactic Hegemony, Zulthrak said proudly. 10,000 star systems under Varaxian rule. Your solar system will be just another dot on this map. The crew looked at the display with interest, but not fear. That's impressive, Susan said. How do you manage to communicate across such distances? The question seemed to throw Zulthrak off balance. That is not relevant. Look at our weapons. The display changed to show a large device mounted on a ship. This is the Planet Splitter, Zulthrak announced. It can crack a world in half with one shot. Daniel stepped forward, studying the image closely. Interesting design, but your power coupling system is inefficient. If you redirected the flow through a secondary matrix, you could increase yield by at least 30%. The alien technician operating the display looked up with surprise. How could you know that? Basic physics, Daniel said with a shrug. We've been working on similar concepts for mining asteroids. Zulthrak's face turned that dark purple color again. You are missing the point. This weapon can destroy your world. Susan crossed her arms. That seems excessive. Why would you want to destroy habitable planets? Aren't they rare? It is not about practicality, the female alien with silver markings said. It is about demonstrating our power. Right, Susan said slowly. But wouldn't it make more sense to work together? We could trade knowledge, resources. Silence, Zulthrak shouted. You will submit to the hegemony's rule. Why are you not afraid? The room went quiet. The humans looked at each other, confused by the aliens' frustration. Finally, Lisa spoke up. Should we be afraid? You haven't done anything threatening. You've just talked a lot. And your coffee was really good, added one of the alien technicians, in a quiet voice. Zulthrak spun around. Technician Mockrell, you dishonor the Empire. Sorry, High Commander, the technician said, looking down. Susan stepped between them. Look, there's clearly a misunderstanding here. On Earth, we don't just surrender to someone because they say we should. That's not how things work for us. But it is how things have worked across the galaxy for 10,000 years, Zulthrak said, his voice rising. All species submit to the hegemony. Well, Susan said with a small smile, humans might be different from what you're used to. Image description for Leonardo AI, a spaceship cargo bay where 6 purple-skinned aliens in formal black uniforms are displaying a large holographic projection showing thousands of ships and planets. High Commander Zulthrak stands with arms raised, dramatically pointing at a weapon display, his face dark purple with frustration. Across from them, human crew members in blue uniforms look more curious than frightened. In the foreground, a human science officer with glasses is pointing out technical flaws in the alien weapon design to a surprised alien technician. Captain Susan Miller stands confidently with arms crossed, looking amused rather than intimidated by the display of alien might. The holographic projection casts a blue-purple glow across everyone's faces in the otherwise standard white lighting of the cargo bay. After the second meeting, Zulthrak was clearly at the end of his patience. His purple skin had dark blue spots, which Daniel said might be a sign of stress. "Humans," Zulthrak announced, "you leave us no choice but to demonstrate our power. Follow us to the observation deck." Susan looked at her crew. She was still not worried, but she was curious. "All right, let's see what they want to show us." The humans and aliens walked to the large window wall that gave a view of space. Outside, the main Varaxian ship moved into position. "Watch carefully," Zulthrak said. He spoke into a small device on his wrist. "Command ship, target the small moon and fire when ready." The small rocky moon orbited a gas giant nearby. It was about the size of Earth's moon, gray and covered in craters. A bright purple beam shot out from the Varaxian ship. It hit the moon, and a large explosion sent dust and rocks flying. When the dust cleared, there was a new crater about 5 miles wide. "Behold the might of the planet splitter," Zulthrak said, his voice full of pride. This was at only 10% power. At full strength, it can break a planet apart. The humans were quiet for a moment. Then Maria Wilson, the security chief, whistled. "That's pretty cute." "Cute?" Zulthrak turned to her, his eyes wide. "Did you say cute?" Maria nodded. "Yeah, I mean, it made a nice hole and all, but it's not that impressive. Our experimental antimatter bombs could do more damage than that." "That's impossible," the female alien with silver markings said. "Your species has only been in space for 50 years. You cannot have such weapons." "We had to develop them," Susan explained. "Earth has a history of wars. We've gotten better at working together, but we learned a lot about weapons along the way." "I'd love to see the math on how your beam works," Daniel said, eyes bright with interest. "The color suggests a type of plasma focus, but the stability is impressive." Zulthrak seemed to be having trouble breathing. You are not impressed by our greatest weapon?" "It's nice," Susan said kindly. "Just not as revolutionary as you seem to think. But that's okay. Different species develop different technologies." "May I ask a question?" Alan said, raising his hand. "How many times can you fire that weapon before needing to recharge?" One of the alien technicians answered, 3 firings at full power before a 6-hour cooldown." "Mokrel!" Zulthrak shouted. "That is classified information." "Sorry, High Commander," the technician said, but he didn't look very sorry. He seemed more interested in the humans' reactions. "Only 3 shots?" Maria said. "That's a serious design limitation." "I bet we could help you improve that," Alan offered. "We've been working on continuous energy flow systems that might apply." Zulthrak stepped back, looking at the humans with new eyes. "You truly are not afraid." It wasn't a question anymore. "Should we be?" Susan asked. "You've been talking about conquering us, but all I see is an opportunity to learn from each other. We have things to teach you, and I'm sure you have things to teach us." The female alien with silver markings stepped forward. "High Commander, I believe we should reconsider our approach. These humans are unusual." "What's your name?" Susan asked her. "I am Science Director Valrek," she replied. "Nice to meet you, Valrek. I think you and Daniel would have a lot to talk about." Valrek looked at Daniel, who smiled and held up his tablet. "I have so many questions about your sensor technology." Zulthrak watched this exchange with a mix of confusion and anger. "This is not proceeding according to protocol." He turned to the other aliens. "We will return to our ship to reconsider our approach." As the aliens left, Lisa leaned toward Susan. "Do you think they're going to attack us now?" "No," Susan said, watching them go. "I think they're going to have a long meeting where they try to figure out why their usual tactics aren't working on us." "And why is that?" Peter asked. Susan smiled. "Because they expected us to act like everyone else they've met. But humans have never been good at doing what's expected." Image description for Leonardo AI. a spaceship observation deck with a wall of windows showing the blackness of space. In the view, a purple beam from a large arrowhead-shaped alien ship strikes a small gray moon in the distance, creating an explosion of dust and rocks. In the foreground, purple-skinned aliens in formal black uniforms gesture dramatically toward the destruction, while human crew members in blue uniforms look unimpressed. High Commander Zulthrak has his arms raised triumphantly, but his face shows shock at the humans' reaction. Captain Susan Miller stands with her arms crossed and a slight smile, while the human security chief points out flaws in the weapon's design to a secretly interested alien technician. The purple beam illuminates everyone's faces with an eerie glow against the otherwise dim lighting of the observation deck. After the weapon demonstration, the Varaxians spent a full day on their ship without contacting the Meridian. Susan was not worried. She used the time to send messages back to Earth about their first contact with aliens. On the second day, Frank Johnson, the communications specialist, had an idea. "Captain, what if we invite them to a cultural exchange? Maybe if we understand each other better, we can avoid any misunderstandings." Susan nodded. "That's a great idea, Frank. Send them an invitation." To everyone's surprise, the Varaxians agreed. This time they sent 10 representatives, including Zulthrak, Valrek, and the technician Mokrel, who had shown interest in human coffee. Susan turned the ship's largest storage room into a meeting space. She had the crew bring personal items to show the aliens something about human life. "Welcome back," Susan said when the Varaxians arrived. "We thought we could share information about our cultures. You go first." Zulthrak looked slightly less angry than before. "Very well. We will educate you." He nodded to one of his crew, who set up a display. The display showed images of a beautiful planet with purple oceans and tall spires. "This is Vorax Prime, heart of the hegemony. Our civilization has remained unchanged for 5,000 years. Our ways are perfect and need no improvement." The display changed to show Voraxians in elaborate ceremonies. "These are our sacred traditions. Every Varaxian knows their place in society from birth. There is no disorder, no chaos." Susan and her crew watched with interest. When the presentation ended, Susan said, "Thank you. That was fascinating. Your society seems very organized." "What about your political system?" asked Valrek. "Who rules Earth?" Frank stepped forward. "We have many different countries with different systems. Most use democracy in some form." "Democracy?" Zulthrak said the word like it tasted bad. "You let common people choose your leaders?" "Yes," Susan said, "and we can vote them out if they don't do a good job." The Varaxians looked shocked. "You can remove your leaders from power?" Valrek asked. "Of course," Lisa said. "What's the point of having leaders if they don't serve the people?" Zulthrak made a strange noise. "The purpose of subjects is to serve the leaders, not the other way around." Now it was the humans' turn to look surprised. Frank decided to change the subject. "Let me show you something we call the Internet." He displayed a tablet showing social media, news sites, memes, and videos of cats doing funny things. The Varaxians watched with wide eyes as Frank scrolled through. "This is chaos," Zulthrak said. "Anyone can say anything without approval." "That's the idea," Frank said. "Free exchange of information and ideas." Valrek leaned closer to the screen. "And these memes? They mock authority figures?" "Sometimes," Frank said. "It's how we process things through humor." Mokrel pointed at a cat video. "What is this creature doing?" "Just being silly," Frank said. "We find it entertaining." "Your species finds joy in randomness?" Valrek asked. Susan nodded. "Life can be hard. Finding humor helps us cope." The Varaxians whispered among themselves. Finally, Valrek asked, "And your entertainment? Do you have approved stories that teach proper values?" "We have all kinds of stories," Susan said. "Some teach lessons, others are just for fun." She showed them clips from movies, music videos, and TV shows. The aliens watched silently, but Susan noticed Mokrel tapping his foot to the beat of a pop song. At the end of the day, The Varaxians seemed overwhelmed. Zolthrak stood up stiffly. "We must discuss what we have learned." As they left, Valrek stayed behind for a moment. "Your culture is disturbing, but interesting. I have many questions." Susan smiled. "Come back tomorrow. We'll answer them, all." After the aliens left, Lisa turned to Susan. "Do you think they're starting to understand us?" "Maybe," Susan said. "But I think we're also starting to understand them. They've lived in a rigid system for thousands of years. The idea of change scares them, and nothing scares humans more than staying the same," Frank added with a smile. Image description for Leonardo AI, a large spaceship storage room converted into a meeting area where human crew members in blue uniforms are showing tablets and screens displaying internet content to fascinated purple-skinned aliens in formal black uniforms. A central holographic display shows multiple Earth media, social media feeds, cat videos, memes, and music videos, casting a colorful glow over everyone. High Commander Zolthrak stands with arms crossed and a horrified expression while science. Director Valrek leans forward with intense curiosity. One young alien technician, Mokrel, is secretly tapping his foot to music while trying not to be noticed by his superiors. Captain Susan Miller stands confidently in the center, gesturing toward the displays with a welcoming smile. The contrast between the rigid, formal aliens and the casual, animated humans is emphasized by their postures and expressions in the brightly lit room filled with Earth cultural items. The next day, Susan decided to take a different approach. She asked Nancy Brown, the ship's medical officer, to prepare a presentation about human biology. "Maybe if they understand how we evolved, they'll understand why we act the way we do," Susan told her crew. When the Varaxians returned, there were even more of them this time. Word had spread through their fleet about the strange humans who laughed at conquest. Nancy set up her medical displays in the meeting room. "Today I'd like to tell you about humans," she began. "Specifically, why we might seem unusual to you." Valrek moved her chair closer. She had brought scanning devices of her own and was taking readings of the humans. "Humans evolved on a planet with many dangers," Nancy explained. "Our world has earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, and floods. We had many large predators that hunted us." She showed images of Earth's natural disasters and prehistoric predators. The Varaxians looked uncomfortable. "You evolved, being hunted?" Valrek asked. "Yes," Nancy said. "Our early ancestors weren't the strongest or fastest. We had to become smart and adaptable to survive." "What about your homeworld?" Susan asked. "What was it like for early Varaxians?" Valrek glanced at Zolthrak, who nodded slightly. "Vorax Prime is very stable. We have no major natural disasters. There were few large predators, and they were easily controlled." "That explains a lot," Nancy said. "Your species never had to deal with constant change and threat. Ours did." She showed brain scans next. "Human brains are wired to seek novelty, to adapt, to find creative solutions. When things stay the same for too long, we get bored." "Bored?" Mokrel asked. "What is this concept?" "It's a feeling of restlessness when nothing changes," Nancy explained. "Humans need stimulation, challenges, new experiences." Valrek made notes on her device. "Fascinating. This explains your chaotic society and strange reactions." "We don't see our society as chaotic," Susan said. "We see it as dynamic. Always improving." "But how can you improve on perfection?" Zolthrak asked, speaking for the first time that day. Susan smiled gently. "We don't believe in perfection, Zolthrak. We believe in growth. There's always room to get better." This concept seemed to disturb the Varaxians deeply. They whispered among themselves in their own language. Nancy continued, showing data about human adaptability. "Look at our history. In just a few hundred years, we went from horse-drawn carriages to spacecraft. We're constantly changing, evolving our technology and society." "Such rapid change," Valrek murmured. "It must be stressful." "Sometimes," Nancy agreed. "But it's also exciting, and it's made us resilient." When things go wrong, we adapt. She showed one final slide, a chart comparing human stress responses to those of other Earth animals. See this? Humans actually function better under moderate stress. It focuses us. That's why we weren't afraid when you threatened us. Zulthrak stood up suddenly. You weren't afraid because you thought we weren't a serious threat? No. Susan said quickly. We weren't afraid because humans have faced threats throughout our history. We're used to it. Our first reaction isn't fear, it's curiosity, problem-solving. Valrek looked at Zulthrak. High Commander, I believe my theory is correct. These humans evolved on what we would classify as a death world. Their biology and psychology are fundamentally different from species in the hegemony. Zulthrak paced the room, his face changing colors rapidly. If what you say is true, then our standard protocols for integration into the hegemony may be inappropriate for this species. Susan tried not to smile. This was progress. Perhaps we could discuss a different type of relationship? A partnership, rather than conquest. The Varaxians looked uncomfortable with this idea, but Valrek nodded slowly. There is much we could learn from each other. There is much we could learn, Zulthrak corrected her. The hegemony does not need to learn from others. But Susan noticed that some of the younger Varaxians didn't seem to agree with their leader. Mokrel was openly taking notes about human culture, and others were watching the Earth videos with interest. Change was coming to the galactic hegemony, whether Zulthrak wanted it or not. Image description for Leonardo AI, a spaceship meeting. Room where a female human doctor in a medical uniform stands next to holographic displays showing Earth's natural disasters, volcanoes, hurricanes, and prehistoric predators, saber-toothed tigers, wolves. She's pointing at brain scan images while explaining human evolution. Seated across from her are 12 purple-skinned aliens in formal, black uniforms with various expressions ranging from shock to face. 3 days after the medical presentation, a new ship arrived from Earth. It was smaller than the Meridian, but sleeker and faster. On board was Ambassador Richard Turner, Earth's best diplomat, along with a team of experts in various fields. Susan met them in the docking bay. Welcome aboard, Mr. Ambassador. Things have been interesting here. Richard smiled. His gray hair and kind eyes made him look wise. So I've heard. Meeting aliens who want to conquer us but can't figure out why we're not afraid. That's a new one. They're not bad people, Susan said as they walked. Just very set in their ways. 5,000 years of doing things the same way will do that to you. In the meeting room, Zulthrak and a group of Varaxian officials waited. They wore their most formal uniforms with extra decorations and badges. Hi, Commander Zulthrak, Susan said. This is Ambassador Richard Turner from Earth. Richard stepped forward with his hand extended. This time, after a moment's hesitation, Zulthrak took it. Thank you for not destroying our ship while we waited for diplomats to arrive, Richard said with a smile. Zulthrak blinked. You are welcome. They all sat down at the large table. Richard opened a folder with paper documents inside. This surprised the Varaxians, who used only digital screens. I've reviewed Captain Miller's reports, Richard began. I understand there's been some confusion about Earth's relationship with your galactic hegemony. There is no confusion, Zulthrak said. All species join the hegemony under Varaxian rule. However, we recognize that humans may require special considerations. Richard nodded. Special considerations. Yes, that's one way to put it. Let me be direct. Earth has no intention of surrendering its sovereignty to the hegemony or any other power. The Varaxians shifted uncomfortably. One of them whispered to Zulthrak, who waved him silent. Instead, Richard continued, I am authorized to propose a trade agreement. Earth has much to offer the hegemony, and I'm sure you have much to offer us. What could your primitive world possibly offer the hegemony? Asked one of the Varaxian officials. Before Richard could answer, Pilot, Olivia Clark spoke up from where she stood near the wall. Well, for starters, we've already figured out how to improve your FTL drive efficiency by about 30%. The Varaxians turned to look at her. That's impossible, one said. Olivia shrugged. Alan and Daniel reverse engineered the basics, from just looking at your ships and talking to your engineer Mockrell. Given a few more weeks, we could probably double your current speed. You examined our ships without permission? Zulthrak asked. We were curious, Susan said simply. Valrek leaned forward. Is this true? You could improve our drive systems? Richard smiled. That's just one example. Humans are very good at finding new solutions to old problems. We could help modernize many of your systems. And in return? Zulthrak asked suspiciously. Access to star maps, trade routes, cultural exchange. We want to join the galactic community, but as equals, not subjects. The Varaxians whispered among themselves again. Finally, Zulthrak said, the hegemony does not make agreements with other species. We rule. That is our way. Richard closed his folder. Then I'm afraid we have nothing to discuss. Earth will continue its own path of exploration and development. Given what we've already learned from our brief contact with you, I estimate we'll achieve technology equal to yours within 20 years. Maybe less. He stood up as if to leave. Susan tried not to smile. She knew this was a negotiation tactic. Wait, Valrek said. Perhaps there could be a new category created. Not subjects, but allies? Zulthrak looked shocked. Science. Director, this is not protocol. The protocol has not worked with these humans, High Commander, Valrek said firmly. Perhaps it is time for the protocol to evolve. The word evolve seemed to cause physical pain to some of the older Varaxians, but the younger ones nodded in agreement. Richard sat back down. I believe we can work with that concept. Allies, partners in exploration and trade. Zulthrak looked around the room at his own people, then at the humans. For the first time, Susan saw uncertainty in his eyes. The mighty hegemony was facing something it had never encountered before. A species that simply would not fit into their ancient system. We will consider this proposal, Zulthrak said finally. Image description for Leonardo AI. A formal meeting, room aboard a spaceship where humans and aliens sit on opposite sides of a long table. On the human side, an older distinguished man with gray hair in a formal Earth diplomatic uniform, Ambassador Richard Turner, is standing and gesturing confidently while presenting a paper document. Behind him stands Captain Susan Miller and a female pilot in a flight suit, Olivia Clark, who leans against the wall with a knowing smile. Across the table, purple-skinned aliens in elaborate black ceremonial uniforms with many medals and insignia look troubled. High Commander Zulthrak sits rigidly in the center with a shocked expression, while beside him Science Director Valrek leans forward with interest. The younger aliens appear more curious while the older ones look disturbed. The room has a formal atmosphere with Earth and hegemony flags or symbols displayed on either side, and soft lighting that highlights the tension and contrast between the two groups. 5 years after the first meeting between the Meridian and the Varaxian fleet, everything had changed. A small Earth station orbited near the edge of what was once exclusive hegemony space. It served as a trading post and cultural center where humans and various alien species met. Kevin Morris, once chief engineer on the Meridian, now ran the station's technology exchange program. Today he was meeting with a group of young Varaxians who had traveled secretly from their homeworld. Welcome to Harmony Station, Kevin said to the purple-skinned visitors. What can I help you with today? Their leader, a female named Trelvin, looked nervous but excited. We want to learn about human music and art, and democracy. Kevin smiled. This was happening more and more often. Follow me to the cultural center. In the large room filled with screens and displays, Varaxians from the group wandered in wonder, touching screens that played Earth music, movies, and showed human art. One of them danced awkwardly to a pop song, while others read about Earth history. My father would be furious if he knew I was here, Trelvin told Kevin. He's a high-ranking official. He says human ideas are dangerous. Are they? Kevin asked. She smiled. Yes, wonderfully dangerous. On the Varaxian homeworld, things were in turmoil. The High Council, including Zulthrak, now called the Reformer by some and the Destroyer by others, argued bitterly about the human problem. They do not follow our rules, an old Varaxian shouted. Yet they prosper. They share their technology. Freely with lesser species, the natural order is being disrupted. Zulthrak looked tired. 5 years of dealing with humans had changed him. The natural order is not what we thought it was, council member. The humans have shown us that. Valrek, now his chief advisor, nodded in agreement. The species that were once our subjects now call themselves members of what they're calling the Interstellar Cooperative. 30 systems have already joined them. Treason, the old Varaxian cried. No, Zulthrak said firmly. Evolution, as the humans would say. Back on Harmony Station, Ambassador Richard Turner met with representatives from 12 different alien species. None of them looked alike. Some had scales, others fur, some had multiple eyes or arms. But they all sat as equals around the table. The cooperative welcomes the Fralaxians, Richard announced, nodding to a group of green, plant-like beings. Your knowledge of botanical medicine will be a great addition to our shared knowledge. One of the aliens, a small blue creature with large eyes, spoke up. What news of the hegemony? Will they try to stop us? Richard looked to Susan Miller, now Admiral of Earth's growing fleet. Admiral? Susan shook her head. Our intelligence suggests the hegemony is too busy with internal matters to bother us now. Their society is changing, whether they want it to or not. In a quiet corner of the station, Mokrel, the former Varaxian technician who had first shown interest in human coffee, sat with Daniel Garcia. They were both older now, but still full of curiosity. It wasn't our weapons that changed the galaxy, Daniel said, looking at a display showing the growing number of worlds joining the cooperative. It was our ideas. Mokrel nodded. That's what scared my people the most, not your ships or your technology, but the way you questioned everything, the way you laughed at power. Is that why you left the hegemony to join us? Daniel asked. I left because for the first time in my life I heard music that made me want to dance, Mokrel said. And in the hegemony, dancing is not permitted. They watched as a group of children, human and alien, played together in the station's garden area. None of them cared about ancient protocols or who should bow to whom. They simply enjoyed each other's company. The hegemony ruled through fear for 10,000 years, Mokrel said. Humans ended that rule in 5 years, not with weapons, but with laughter. Daniel smiled. That's what humans do best. We don't accept limits. We don't follow the rules. And when someone tells us to be afraid, you laugh, Mokrel finished. And then, for the first time in his long life, the Varaxian threw back his head and joined in that laughter. Image description. For Leonardo AI, a futuristic space station. Interior with a large central atrium where humans and various colorful